Evening. First, we would like to wish everybody that everybody remain well and safe in these times, in these difficult times. We'd like to retract the last talk. We discussed about the human being and the conditions of the human being, the body, the mind, and the soul. Now, the question that we'd like to answer now is how does both these three components progress? Let us try and explain the nourishment, the development of these three components. Let's start with the body. Now, the body, all the three, body, mind, and soul, require some form of nourishment before it can be healthy. The body needs all the three, body, mind, and soul. It needs the correct kind of nourishment. It needs the right kind of environment for it to be able to be given enough food to grow. After having the nourishment, all the three need some form of exercise, some form of skill development, some form of the learning of it to improve. And the third stage would be the application of what he learns, and with the nourishment, the ability to do, and the second stage of learning and learning how to do, the skill development, and then the final stage will be actually the doing of the exercise to make use of the nourishment, the exercise, and the final test. So let's take the example of the body. Let's take a runner, a footballer, now, or weightlifter. He would have to have the right kind of food for his body to be well. He has to have the right kind of food. This is a key word here, right kind of food. It's not just food. I mean, if he takes junk food, he will not develop correctly. So he must take correct, nutritious food, right food. And then after taking this food, he's got to do the right exercise. For instance, he wants to improve his biceps. He's got to do exercises for his biceps. He cannot be doing exercises. If he wants to develop his bicep, he cannot be doing exercises that will develop his legs. So the right exercises become very, very important. And then he will have to learn skills, how to move his legs, how to play football, how to dribble the ball, how to hold the ball, how to kick the ball. So there is skill development. And how to counter attack. Now, and in the process of this development, he will need to go through obstacles. Like, for instance, if you talk about the weight lifter, he would need to be carrying weight after weight after weight, and to increase his strength, to increase his ability. So the same thing with a footballer. He would need to do things to improve his ability, to improve his skill one after another. And after this process of improving his skill, mastering his ability, before I forget, you talk about ability, or rather we'll discuss that when we go into the mind. Okay, after you've got your skill and after you've got your exercises, then you have your football game, the actual test, the weightlifting competition, the 100-meter sprint. This is the time you put all your exercises, all your knowledge, all your nourishment to test whether or not everything falls into place. Now the same thing with the mind. The mind would need the right kind of knowledge, the right kind of environment. I mean, if you study the wrong thing, or if you study, if you're not logical in your thinking, you're not analytical in your thinking, you're feeding yourself with the wrong thing. What you end up with is that your source of knowledge will not nourish your mind. And then, meaning when you talk about the development of the mind, the first thing that has got to be checked out would be, how do you know what you know? How do you know that the basis of your knowledge is correct? What is the basis of your knowledge? For instance, are the teachers teaching you reputable teachers? Teachers who are respected by the majority of the scholarship? Or these teachers are teachers who are just fringes? Or I'm not saying that fringe professors are not reliable. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that they must be able, there must be substance. The knowledge must have substance. So you need to know how do you know what you know. This is very, very important. You have to check that out as to whether or not a person explaining to you a medical book, for instance, a professor of medicine can pick up a medical book and explain to you. The same medical book can be used by a quack, and he can explain to you what he thinks. So the difference between a professor explaining to you from the same book, the medical book, and a quack explaining to you from the same book, that's a big difference. So if you take your knowledge from a quack, although the book is correct, but your understanding is that from a quack. So the first process of mental nourishment is, how do you know what you know? Second is, who is the one that gives you that knowledge? After this, you have the thinking process. You have the thinking process, and you have the reflection process. And you have the time to contemplate, to experiment, to evaluate what you have learned, to see whether or not it is valid. And the last part, of course, would be when you apply your knowledge. Say, if you're a lawyer, it would mean that all the theory that you have learned in school, how are you going to apply it in a courtroom? If you're a doctor, how are you going to apply it with your patient, with the operating theater? The application of your knowledge. If you're a businessman, the same thing. The application of your knowledge. To see whether or not your knowledge is valid and is for the good of mankind. Now, the same thing applies when you talk about the soul. When you talk about the soul, you're basically about the same thing. The first element of the soul, the nourishment of the soul, obviously, is to connect between the creation and the creator. This nourishment would be, the first element of nourishment of the soul is to establish a connection, to establish a link. And the second, of course, is a contemplation, to know that you are a servant, that you are a created being, and to understand your position as soul. And of course, the last would be to acknowledge. Acknowledge that you are a created being, you are a servant, you are dependent, you are impotent, and therefore you are dependent of the Creator. So I will try and go deeper into this in the next session, but to summarize, all these three components, the body, the mind, and the soul, would have the need to nourish, the need to build the body, need to build the mind, need to build the soul. And of course, the final product would be the application of the nourishment, the building, and the performance. All these three, the body, the mind, the soul, after it's developed, if it is not developed in balance, for instance, if the body, if you just develop the body, you become a very good basketball player, but you do not know how to handle your life. You end up being a multi-million-dollar overnight and then bankrupt in the next 3 years. Or you have a serious problem with your life. So this balance of this tree is very important for you to be able to become a balanced and successful human being. With that, we end this session, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you.